Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix San Diego. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Luis Scott Vargas, and we're underway in the top 8. Luis, this is our quarterfinal match here between Ben Weitz and Paul Rietzl. Looks like we've got the names swapped there, as that is Paul, of course, on the right-hand side of your screen wearing his hood up there. He's in business mode.
Yeah. He looks like he's ready to rumble here.
He does indeed. Paul is playing Obs on Control this weekend, and Ben Weitz is actually on a Jeskai deck here. Kind of an interesting take on Jeskai. We saw, I believe, 7 copies made it into day 2, and Ben made it into the top 8 with it here as well. And he's got a nice start to his game. He's got Jace on turn 2.
Turn 2 Jace is a pretty good start, especially since Paul's deck doesn't have a ton of ways to kill it, given that he played a tap land on turn 3. In fact,
he's just got ultimate price, right?
In a fairly unsurprising start, Paul had tap lands on turns 1, 2, and 3. That's what this Obs deck does. And Paul does have, what, 1 Bioblight and 2 ultimate price as ways to kill it, which he apparently is not able to kill that Jace. So Ben signaled.
And he would have, right? I mean, he would have just snapped it right off.
Especially since Ben signaled a little bit by playing Sheevan Reef. It shows that is his untapped blue source here. So if you could kill Jace, I mean, Ben doesn't have a ton of other lands. He did end up drawing that island, but why take pain when you don't have to? It just rules out islands and flooded strands for the most part.
Right. Okay, so Jace does get activated once on the loot. It gets rid of a Jeskai Charm, apparently a card that he is not that interested in having against Paul, especially when he's digging for lands here. Passes the turn back to Rietzl, who does have an untapped mana finally on turn 4 here and could clear the way for a Siege Rhino.
Yeah, it looks like that's what his plan is. And it's good to get the Siege Rhino down here before one of Ben's 3 Ojutai's commands are online. Though Ben just has the Valorous stance and immediately kills the Siege Rhino. This is kind of where Jeskai wants to be. It's got Jace going. The board is clear. Ojutai's command is particularly good in this spot.
All right, so he's going to activate Jace once again. That graveyard's filling up quickly. It's going to already have 3 cards in it, so Jace is working his way up pretty quickly towards becoming a Planeswalker here.
Though, funnily enough, becoming a Planeswalker doesn't actually protect Jace from that much removal because Hero's Downfall hits either way.
So if you're in Ben Weitz's seat, are you planning on having Jace die before it gets to Planeswalker mode and kind of crafting your loots around that?
The thing is, Paul hasn't had a turn where it would have been very convenient to kill Jace. You can rule out Bioblight and Ultimate Price, or at least he didn't have them on his third turn when Paul had 2 mana available. But other than that, you have to assume that Jace is safe, at least for now. Though the cards that he's discarded, that Ben has discarded so far, are not particularly valuable. So
yeah, just got Charm.
I mean, but then again, he's got like Lightning Strike in his hand too, which that card's not really winning any efficiency awards against Obzon. There aren't very many good targets for it.
Now, interestingly here, Ben looks like he's not played a land. Also not activated Jace.
Ben just
bless you.
Ben just drew and passed the turn immediately. Didn't activate Jace, and I think part of the reason is that, let's say Paul were to target Jace right now with the removal spell, Ben could, in response, cast like Lightning Strike or Stoke, then tap Jace, and Jace would dodge removal.
Ooh, here's a big play, though, for Paul Rietzl. He's not messing around with Jace at all. He's just going to play Elspeth, Sun's Champion, and it resolves. Boom.
Yeah, Elspeth is a great play against someone with a bunch of Ojutai's commands. So Ben is going to intentionally not flip Jace end of turn here. He could have flipped Jace, but there's no reason to flip it end of turn. You might as well flip it on your main phase. You get an extra loot out of it.
Are we going to see him throw a couple of burn spells Elspeth's direction here? He does actually have Stoke and Strike in his hand.
He does, but Ben, it's not a comforting thought for Ben, though. You don't really want to use Lightning Strike plus Stoke the Flames to kill an Elspeth and still leave 3 tokens in play.
No, that does not feel good, though the comforting thought of leaving Elspeth in play unchecked also doesn't sound very good.
Yeah. It's funny
because he's supposed to have like
neither player did anything particularly efficient last turn. So it looks like Ben is going to cast Ojutai's command, getting Soulfire Grandmaster back and drawing a card.
Okay,
and Ojutai's command plus Jace is one of the synergies on which this deck is built. So that interaction is quite good. You've got 2 drops to discard a Jace and then get back with Ojutai's command. The problem is you're not really doing much. I guess Ben can still cast Strike plus Stoke immediately, but he's just sending in the Soulfire Grandmaster. I would expect Paul to triple block there.
Looks like that's exactly what he's done. He's going to lightning strike now. This is going to get...
So doing the lightning strike now
Elspeth
gets you the lifelink off of Soulfire Grandmaster. Elspeth goes down to 2. Jace can now flip and then flashback lightning strike, kill Elspeth, and won't die to the token unless Paul has an Obzon Charm to pump it.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean...
He got out of this reasonably well.
This is a sequence of plays that is, gets Elspeth off the board, leaves the board kind of clear, but I still don't, I don't love Ben's spot here. Because Paul gets to now untap and play something big. Like, basically, Paul has the initiative at this point. So Paul's hand is pretty stacked. He's got a pretty good mix of land and spells, which usually means Obzon has a good hand because all the cards in Obzon are good. That's one of the features of the deck.
Yeah, and so far this game, he's kind of showed that. He's just played Siege Rhino, Elspeth. He's just kind of running out the big beef here.
And I think Paul has Hero's Downfall Siege Rhino in hand. The question is, do you want to downfall Jace? Problem is the token's not going to kill Jace, and unless Paul, if Paul has Obzon Charmer as one Dramoka's command, he could actually make the token big enough and then immediately kill Jace.
Okay, Courser of Crewfix reveals a Nissa. He still has 3 mana left over.
Didn't hit a land off the Courser. That would, I'm sure, made things a little bit easier. And we have a mid-match update. Michael Majors is up 1-0 over Dan Ward. And I actually saw them play in the Swiss where Michael Majors won there as well. It turns out black-red control is not really where you want to be when you're playing against blue-red mill.
I mean, he does have a pretty aggressive curve in that deck, does Dan Ward. I'm actually surprised to see that.
He does. He has Rabblemaster, which is a pretty good card. But Anger of the Gods is quite good against Hanger, Backwalker, and Rabblemaster.
Oh, yeah.
And then Stormbreath, Dragon, and Thunderbreak region are just a little slow.
They're a little slow, huh?
Please report to the on-demand meeting area behind the side event stage.
Yeah, Major's kind of having his way with the Swiss portion of this tournament.
13-2, really 13-1, because he actually ended up conceding to Paul Rietzl in the last round because Majors was already locked. So 13-1 in matches played. Yeah, it's a pretty good. There are not many better Swiss performances. And if Mill keeps winning, we will get to watch it, but we have featured Michael Majors many times so far.
Indeed.
So Paul chose to not deal with the Jace directly, but hit it down to 1 with the token and then play a Tassiger, which leaves Ben kind of in need of a sweeper, but since this is game 1, he doesn't really have access to that sort of effect.
Yeah, Goblin Rabblemaster not with the Doctor ordered here.
But I think we're going to see Rabblemaster stoke. No, maybe not. Because one of the advantages of Rabblemaster is you can play it and then make a token, then stoke the flames before attacking.
But he didn't take that option. And now he can't stoke the flames without an untapped land.
Well, he has an untapped land. Now he could stoke Tassiger. Plus Jason Courser, stoke the Tassiger, and then, well.
Ooh, this worked out pretty well
Jace
here.
is surviving another turn based on what's on the board.
Given what we've seen now, do you think that Paul should have blocked differently?
Not necessarily. I think that blocking with Courser might have been better just because it does end up not being vulnerable to anything new. Like Stoke could still kill the Courser.
I mean, it does open it up to Lightning Strike.
Players in standard number 21. Sealed number 21.
Nissa, Vastwood Seer, fetching. The synergy between Nissa and Courser is also particularly nice. You miss on the top of the deck for Courser, you get to play Nissa, shuffle, have another shot.
Have another shot to hit, and then if you miss, you're still going to get to hit your land and gain that life. Yeah, it is really nice combo.
Players in Chaos Draft and Charity Sealed.
Ooh.
He's found a Languish on top.
Languish not really what Paul's looking for here, but he can flip Nissa and play Siege Rhino this turn, and one of the better ways to beat Jeskai is get ahead of it. Jeskai plays very well when it's ahead or at parity, but when it's behind, it tends to play less well. It just does, especially in the main deck, does not have a lot of ways to really come back from a complicated board presence.
And it looks like Rietzl, after having flipped Nissa here, is deciding what he wants to do. He's going to attack Jace down to 1.
And then make an Ashara, the 4/4 elemental token, and then play a Siege Runner. And see, this is the kind of play you're much less likely to make against an opponent who has end hostilities in their deck.
Right.
But
He's just
against
pretty
a Rabble
here.
Master and a bunch of Manus Riders, yeah, this looks great. And Ben's hand, not spectacular either. Soulfire Grandmaster and a bunch of land is mostly what it looks like, though. It looks like he might be casting a Dig Through Time, which, never mind. That will upgrade his hand significantly.
That's exactly what he's doing. Let's see what he hits. There's a Manus Rider. There's an Ojutai's Command. Another Rabble Master. I didn't see that last card. There was also, oh, it looks like it's a Jace. And there was also a Soulfire Grandmaster in that mix as well. So lots of options here for Ben.
Yeah. But again, basically, cards like Jace take a turn to get active. Cards like Ojutai's Command really reward you for being ahead. But when you're behind, I mean, yes, you can gain 4 life, you can put a creature back into play, but there's nothing quite like having all your mana untapped and a Manus Rider that's hitting them. And here, Paul has a 4/4, a 4/5, a Courser, and a 1/1. So that's a lot of pressure.
Paul's really intimidating with that hood up, too. Look at him.
Oh, yeah.
He's in Rocky mode, ready to fight.
Starting the season off strong here with the top 8.
Yeah, trying to run it up maybe to a victory. Paul's, of course, a Hall of Famer.
One of the most recently inducted Hall of Famers, though not most recently elected Hall of Famers.
That's right. Okay, so here's Mantis Rider.
I like starting with Manus Rider because that can kill Nissa here. At any point, though, Paul can also even cast Languish and then kill everything but Siege Rhino. Not that Paul's really in a hurry to do that, but he's got that option.
Okay, so Mantis Rider at Nissa. Goblin token's going to get eaten by either a Rhino or a Shia or whatever.
Ashaya sounds better. I think Paul, thinking about that Stoke last turn, might not want to repeat that, even though Ben does not have access to another Stoke here.
Just forming good habits here on the fly. Languish into hand for Rietzl, and he finds a Courser of Krufix on top of his library. Now Rietzl has attacks here.
Certainly, especially if he does have a Hero's Downfall, which it looks like he might. I get a glimpse of that there. Hero's Downfall, which could just target Mantis Rider, giving Paul pretty much free reign. So it looks like Paul is going to kick things off with that downfall.
Players in on-demand standard number 20.
All right, so Mantis Rider down, and the board has really shrunk up underneath Ben Weitz here. He's got Jace on 2 plus a Rabble Master that's just a 2/2 on the board. Now, is the Courser under the spell of Jace there? Don't know actually
No,
what he targeted.
it looks like one of the 4 power creatures got targeted.
Okay. So we'll keep that in mind as well. And it looks like 2 creatures are going to run at Jace, guaranteeing that he dies, and then the other one, I believe the Siege Rhino is attacking Ben here.
But Courser is Paul's next draw step here, so Ben at least knows what he's working against, but yeah, Jace, unsurprisingly, cannot sustain this assault, and then Ben's going to take a bunch of damage.
It's down to 9.
Paul did kill Mantis Rider's turn, but Paul didn't add another threat to his board. If Ben can have a good turn with Soulfire Grandmaster, that could be the start of a comeback here. Soulfire Grandmaster, I have to admit, is a card which can help swing things. If you play Soulfire Grandmaster and then Stoke the Flames on the 4/4, for example, Ben's all of a sudden at 13 and still not facing down a ton of power. Siege Rhino by itself won't necessarily get things done. Oh.
Assuming that's a Den Protector
Den
there?
Protector, on the other hand, is quite a bit of extra action. And Paul, even taking a risk by playing Den Protector when he can't flip it this turn. So, and then Ben drew the Stoke. He's got a Soulfire Grandmaster and a Stoke now. Den Protector surely the biggest threat.
Yeah, Ben's got just enough mana if he wants to do the Stoke and Soulfire. He has to wait till the token gets made off of the Rabble Master here, but he can make that happen.
Yeah, this could actually be worse for Ben. I mean, it was looking pretty bad for him, but that dig through time, yeah, found a Mantis Rider, found a potentially, I guess he already had the Soulfire Grandmaster. I think he found him an Odatize command, which
Another way that he can dig himself out of this mess. There's the Soulfire Grandmaster.
here's a token. And I would not be surprised if the token got tapped here.
I wouldn't either. Now, he's going to want to activate the Grandmaster here, though, right?
Apparently not. He looks like he's got an Odatize command. He's going to be playing that instead, maybe?
Okay.
That's what it looks like to me. So
Yeah.
the fact that Ben did not buy back Stoke the Flames, which he could have activated Soulfire
That's just a
Grandmaster.
huge red flag for Paul, right?
Yeah, Paul has to know something's up here. Oh, that life swing, that was big. And now Ben can... Actually, Ben's kind of turned the corner on this all of a sudden. Ben can cast Odatize command to draw a card and get back Jace.
Yeah.
And then flip Jace and then cast something awesome off that.
Wow. Huh. Well, let's wait till we hear from Paul Rietzl here, as he does have a card in hand. What was it, a Courser that he was drawing?
Paul has Courser and Languish in hand.
Okay. That Obzon Charm looks pretty nice on top of his library. You can draw some cards with that next turn, but...
And it looks like Artur Villanueva is up, or Vileva is up one game against Corey Burkhart in the Constellation against Obzon Aggro matchup.
Okay.
So in come all the creatures, actually. And Paul has the option of pulling the trigger on Languish if he wants. It kills his own Courser and his 4/4, but would kill Soulfire Grandmaster, Rabble Master, and of course the Goblin token.
It doesn't sound that bad, actually. You got to wonder, how concerned Paul is about that Soulfire Grandmaster becoming kind of an engine as the game goes on here.
Again, Ben not buying back Stoke. Paul has to figure that Ben's got a command or maybe a dig in hand, something like that.
Yeah. If it's dig, it doesn't really affect his decision as much because he can't do anything about that. Command, though, does affect things, especially if...
Right, if Paul, say
play
Paul
the
plays a
Courser.
Courser this turn. And there are a couple big turning points this game. Tasker blocking a 1/1, definitely something that could have gone differently.
Yep.
Also, Paul opting to play Den Protector when he couldn't flip it was definitely...
He did get punished there.
Gives an opportunity. So Paul chose to bait out the Odatize command, and then now gets to cast Languish. So Ben knew about the Languish. He had all the perfect information. So now Ben is facing down a Siege Rhino at 2 life, and if Ben doesn't draw something, he's just dead. All right.
Wow. So is Ben supposed to not counter there then?
It's
Knowing
safer. I
about
mean,
the
you
Languish?
know that sequence, right? So let's say Ben doesn't counter there. He lets Course resolve. End of turn, he goes, get back Jace, draw a card.
Or gain 4 life or
Or
whatever.
gain 4 life.
Yeah.
And then you can untap, activate Jace to draw a card, then discard a card, and then stoke the flames, gain 4 life. Potentially, you can't buy it back. You can't flash back and buy it back. But
not from the graveyard.
But yeah,
That's
Ben.
gotta be a
I mean,
better
Ben
spot than
had all the
just
information there. So, and as you see, the players do have deck lists because this isn't the top 8, and they get to see the deck list of their opponent.
Why is that?
A big part of it is so you're not punishing people who didn't watch the stream or didn't have friends scout. And I think deck lists put everyone on equal footing here.
So it's our fault.
No, I wouldn't say it's our fault. I'd say it's your fault, but not ours.
It's not
Right.
collectively. Okay. All right, well, let's jump over and see what Michael Majors is up to with this crazy deck. I know the chat goes wild every time we put it on camera.
Double Sphinx's tutelage is where we're at.
Oh, no. And his opponent, Dan Ward's even helping him out.
Yeah, he's got outposts. He's milling himself.
He's got his own Sphinx's tutelage going here. Oh, no. And we see the red dot indicates that Michael Majors is up a game here, and already counting the library of Dan Ward. Looks like it was, between 10 and 15 cards. This one could be done quickly.
It can. Michael Majors is only at 8 life, actually. So if Dan draws a Storm Breath Dragon, well, there we go, Storm Breath Dragon. That could be a threat. And the Fiery Impulse in Michael's hand is not going to kill Storm Breath. I don't believe Daniel Ward has enough cards left to survive another full turn of this, but if he does go down to 0, he doesn't die right away. He does have an opportunity to Monstrous the Storm Breath or cast a spell on upkeep.
Upkeep, yeah.
So Michael Majors has to make sure that he doesn't die to that.
Yeah, this is a post-sideboarded game. He's got 1 card left, I believe. Ooh, there's another couple of life there for Majors.
But Outpost Siege might actually finish this. Look.
Exile a card on your upkeep. Oh, no. He's only got 1 card left.
Yeah, and
and Majors is out of range of burn spells, too, and that's it. Wow. So Michael Majors advances to the semifinals. It's really seemed to be his weekend so far with this blue-red mill deck, and now he is just 2 matches away from taking down the title here. We're going to be keeping a close eye on that story. Let's jump back over to our main match, of course, here, where we've got Paul Rietzl on the right side. Now, he just won game 1 against Ben Weitz, who's on the left. Ben's playing Jeskai and manages to have a smile on his face even after taking a loss there. He's got to win 2 games in a row against Hall of Famer Paul Rietzl. That's all. No problem.
Against hoodied Hall of Famer Paul Rietzl.
Yeah, battle mode Paul Rietzl. On the right-hand side was the match we just saw end, so those 2 guys are just de-sideboarding here. But Dan Ward, good start to the season. He's going to have to settle for a top 8 finish. And at the GP. Also, I will say here that this black-red Dragons deck had very good showing. It finished top 8 here in the quarters and 10th as well. Yeah, so.
Yeah. But I talked to Dan, and he was pretty happy that he's qualified for Milwaukee now. He wasn't qualified for the next Pro Tour.
I was wondering about that.
And now he is, so that's a pretty big step up. So
good for him.
I think that you can't say this is anything but a successful weekend, even losing in the quarterfinals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dan is somebody that we see out at the GPs a lot. He's a bit of a grinder. I did a deck tech with him earlier, and he said that he was in the military for a while, and he's now done with that. And so he has more time now to dedicate to Magic and travel and stuff. And so he's really going out there and doing it. I like it. He brought a cool brew, and he did really well with it.
Yeah, actually, last Grand Prix San Diego, that was modern, he lost playing for top 8 to Ifro.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Yeah, and his friend, Sammy, who got 10th with the deck here, he actually lost to to Nathan Holiday in the finals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, these guys do very well at GP San Diego, it turns out. Yeah, we did a deck tech on the deck as well. You can see that. I think the deck techs might get posted. I was trying to get Andy to post them on CFB at some point or put them somewhere.
Well, we quality control, so we have to do a peer review first and see if they meet standards.
Why are you so hard on Dan? He did fine.
All right. You can see our competitors there on the left. And see if they end up keeping their opening hands here. Looks like Ben is good, and Paul apparently is good as well. Ooh, it always feels rough when you're playing a deck, one of the 3-color decks that have a lot of tap lands, when you lead with an untapped land on turn 1. It feels like you are losing value because the lands you draw in the middle of the game, first of all, they're going to come to play tap. Second of all, Ben's taking damage just to play Jace again.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure Paul Rietzl will have noticed that as well. It doesn't necessarily change his decisions drastically, but it's certainly nice to see from his seat.
No,
he's changed his hood positioning.
His hood configuration?
Well. Yeah.
It's not going to change Paul's decisions drastically, but it is relevant information. like you can make educated guesses about Ben's hand. Like he didn't have Mystic Monastery in his hand turn 1. He does not have Island or Flooded Strand in his hand turn 2. So I'd expect Ultimate Price to be the next card Paul casts here, because there aren't that many options on 2. And I think he's going to make sure Jace ultimately doesn't do anything. All right, here's the deal. I take 2, you take 3. That's what Ben signed up for here.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be happy that he's able to deploy his threats here, but his mana base is getting pretty painful. Thankfully for him, Paul Rietzl's deck isn't the one that punishes you super hard for that. I mean, it all adds up.
But it has Siege Rhinos in it.
Yeah, it does add
You're
up.
going to get attacked. And the fact that Ben has had, currently he's paid 3 life to cast his spells, but it's more like in the future he's still going to have to pay life. He's not playing any monasteries or temples right now, so I don't foresee Ben, not paying life anytime soon. Like every spell he has cast so far, he has taken damage for. And that is not a sustainable thing.
Right.
Players in on-demand events.
Now, what do we know about Paul Rietzl's hand here? He just has nothing. He's taken 2 hits now from Mana Strider. He had the 3 mana here.
Last turn he played a tap land as his
Yeah.
3rd land.
So we're expecting some type of Hero's Downfall or something here.
He does have Hero's Downfall and Bile Blight in hand, as well as Courser of Crufix. What Paul would really like to do is cast Languish, and that's part of the reason that you saw Ben not play Jace last turn. He could have played another copy of Jace.
Well, it looks like he's going to settle for Courser of Crufix, trying to hit a land here. He's going to get to play a Scry land. I'm assuming he wants to keep
yeah,
Siege
Siege
Rhino.
Rhino seems fine.
Yeah, but also this lets him block on the ground against the Soulfire Grandmaster.
It means that he's not taking so much damage. It
Yeah.
buys him time to cast Bile Blight. He gets the incremental advantage from Courser. Ben could stoke the Courser and attack for 5. It looks like he's choosing to kind of slow play here his threats and just leave Strike, Stoke in hand.
He's got Strike, Stoke, Jace, no Ojutai's Command.
Does not look like an Ojutai's Command, no.
Speaking of incremental advantage, here's Paul Rietzl flipping a land.
Ben could, at this point, stop Paul on his draw step and kill the Courser. You'll end up losing 2 points of damage. So I think if he was going to kill the Courser, he would have done it on his turn so he could attack.
Yeah. All right, looks like Paul's found Tassiger here.
Tassigre.
Tassiger, he's taking a look at it. He remains unconvinced.
Yeah, I'm not in love with casting Tassiger here. I mean, Paul could draw it next turn, cast it for 2 to 3 mana, depending on how many cards go to his graveyard from there, but I don't know if that's really going to help much, especially if he's worried about getting, say, burned out.
So what is he looking for? He's looking for more answers here, as opposed to these more proactive cards like Tassiger.
Paul really just needs time. He's got a good hand. It looks like he's fine with Tassiger, though. He's got a good hand. Part of my concern, if I were Paul, is that Ben does have Ojutai's Command, in which case casting a Siege Rhino and getting it countered would be disaster. So that could be an incentive to just pass the turn and have a removal spell up for the Mantis Rider. All right, looks like Ben is casting Stoke in a turn. See, even though Ben, I don't believe, has Ojutai's Command in hand, he's selling it pretty well. Paul's playing as if he does because he has to.
Yeah.
He knows Ben has 3 in his deck.
So Stoke the Flames does, in fact, take care of Courser of Crufix. And the beats keep flowing here for Ben Weitz. He's trying to even this thing up and go to the 3rd game, and you got to figure that Rietzl has a removal spell now. All right, he does. This was before attacks, apparently, and Mantis Rider is
Here's
gonna
downfall
get
targeting
Hero's
Mana
Downfall.
Strider before attacks, just in case Ben wanted to play Stoke, I guess. But no, either regardless of whether he attacks first or not, the downfall is just happening here.
On-demand events at Grand Prix San Diego.
Is the Grandmaster still getting in? There he goes.
Sealed, draft, or constructed events.
So Paul Rietzl falls down to 10 life.
Once again,
And here is a Jace Friends Prodigy now.
And I think Ben
Okay, Ben is looking pretty good here.
I think he's assumed that Paul doesn't have a Languish because there's a decent chance Paul would have cast it last turn if he had one.
Do we know if Paul has a Languish?
I cannot see one.
Can't see
Paul
it
does have a
either.
Bile Blight.
3 cards in the graveyard. Jace has Summoning Sickness, but is threatening to even flip over next turn. If he's still alive. And he won't be. Bile Blight is going to take down Jace.
And then Paul's going to start his parade of rhinos. He has
Yeah.
multiple rhinos in hand. He wants to cast one now while he knows it's going to resolve.
Again, thinking about that Ojutai's command as well. Can play right around that.
It's also brutal if you're in a spot like Ben where you sell your opponent on the fact that you have Ojutai's command. When you don't, then you draw it. And all of a sudden, all that deception actually ends up hurting you. I mean, it's good to convince your opponent that they should play around cards you don't have. It's just always unfortunate when you do draw those cards and then they're already
funny.
playing around them.
And was that a Rabble Master off the top for Ben? I believe
Looks
so.
like.
Doesn't look great here. A couple of turns ago, Rabble Master could have done some serious damage, but
Oh, and Ben has Disdainful Stroke. That's his last card. But he's been choked on blue.
He has.
He gets to cast Jace, but he can't cast Disdainful Stroke. And so now Paul knows he can resolve another Siege Rhino.
Yeah.
Paul
He's
could
just
actually
got
play
red, white,
Siege
red,
Rhino
white.
plus Tassiger. And,
Wow, he could turn the corner pretty quickly, could Paul Rietzl, and try to shut the door on this match.
and unless Ben decided in tragic arrogance, again, that would look pretty good.
22 and draft number 35.
Could also,
Events are ready to begin.
yeah, another Siege Rhino's nice here.
Players in draft number 35 and seal number 22. Please report to the on-demand meeting area behind the side events.
There it is, Siege Rhino number 2. We are working our way up to a Crash of Rhinos here. And these are going to
Two
start
Siege Rhinos
adding
have
up.
8 power, and Crash of Rhinos has 8 power. So
So we're there?
I assume we're there.
All right. I mean, this has been a fairly unremarkable game for Rietzl, right? I mean, he's cast spells, he's done stuff, but look at him.
Rietzl went turn 2 Ultimate Price, turn 3 nothing, turn 4 Courser, turn 5 Hero's Downfall, turn 6 Bile Blight plus Rhino. I mean, that's a pretty normal curve.
Yeah, it's just fine, right? Like, it's nothing remarkable.
Well,
Yet
Advon
here he
never
is.
has a remarkable curve.
Yeah.
They just do that curve very successfully and very consistently.
And it has put him in a nice spot with 12 power on the battlefield.
And Paul overpays for Tassiger just because he's got the extra mana that's not going to do anything. Now he has 12 power out. Ben does get to flip Jace, but casting Stoke the Flames, that's not going to get him out of this. There's 3 4/5s in play. This is one of the reasons that I don't love playing Jeskai against Abzan is that you end up with cards like Lightning Strike and Stoke the Flames, and they end up with cards like Siege Rhino and Tassiger. So it is tough.
This is a really important turn for Ben Weitz. He's deep in the tank here. He can cast a spell, flip Jace. It really has been tough for him as far as mana goes. He's found himself all the way down to 10 life with just that one blue mana source. It costs him a pain just to use it. All of his white mana sources hurt him too.
I think Ben's dealt 6 damage to himself off his lands from my count. That's a lot of damage, and he didn't have access to double blue when he needed it.
Yeah. And, you know, Paul Rietzl turned the corner last turn by adding 2 huge threats to the battlefield, and he is ready to rumble. Rabble Master hits the bin for Ben.
Jace flips because there's 5 cards in the graveyard.
That's right.
Looks like Corey Burkhart versus R2 is now a 1-1 match. So
Okay.
they're going to game 3.
Legacy players.
Looks like we're setting up Lightning Strike plus Lightning Strike off the Jace.
This is going to take down Tassiger.
Yeah, and it does gain 6 life for Ben, so
Okay.
the Siege Rhino, I imagine 1 kills Jace and 1 hits Ben down to 11, but Ben didn't really advance his board exactly. He traded a Jace and a Lightning Strike for a Tassiger is eventually what's going to have happened here, which still leaves Paul in a pretty commanding position. Looks like Paul has a Den Protector too, and that gives Paul a decent amount of options. He can Bile Blight away the Soul Fragment Master, or he can get Tassiger back and be ready to recast it.
And here he goes. He's going to get the Bile Blight. Going to take out the Soulfire Grandmaster. And Paul Rietzl has made a strong move towards advancing to the semis here as he's going to attack for over half.
Well, it looks
I
like,
shouldn't
he's
say
going
that. One of them's going to hit Jace, but he's going to hit him for 4. And he does have lethal on the battlefield now.
And
Beautifully set up
Ben
here.
is looking forlornly at that Disdainful Stroke.
Yeah, it's just rotting.
It's a fine card in this matchup.
Yeah.
It's certainly one of the things you want to do, but Ben just never had an opportunity to leave the mana up for it. So Ben could
Rietzl's up a game.
play a Soulfire Grandmaster and a Rabble Master to try to, stave off Paul's forces, but that's really just losing a ton of ground here.
Paul snapped off the block with his Den Protector,
On the
which,
token,
by the
yeah.
way, is unblockable here as well.
So Ben has to block at least one of the Siege Rhinos. He can take. He ends up taking 9 down to 2 if he does that. So if Paul has basically anything, things are going to be tough. It looks like Paul cycling a Hallowed Moonlight there.
And crunch, crunch, crunch.
So what are Ben's paths to victory here? Maybe,
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Maybe chumping, leaving the Soulfire Grandmaster, because he needs to string together a bunch of burn spells next turn just to have a chance. But right now, Ben's going to be at 2. Paul's going to have 3 lethal threats in play. And Disdainful Stroke in hand.
This could be it.
Play Dragon Lord Ojutai, chump Siege Rhino, block Siege Rhino, go up to 4, go down to 2, go down to -1 off the Den Protector.
It looks like it's it, and that is it. Paul Rietzl defeats Ben Weitz and is going to move on to the semifinals. He finally lets out a little bit of a smile there. So we've got 2 of our semifinalists lock in now. We've got Mike Majors and we've got Paul Rietzl.